This is the January 9th, 2013 meeting of the City Council Finance Subcommittee. For anyone here that doesn't know, it's being tape recorded, audio and video recorded. I think everyone here knows that. First item of business is minutes from the prior meeting of 12/12/12.
Move to approve.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
You weren't here, Justin, right?
I have to abstain. Yeah. Oh, geez, I heard. It's not on TV, but I have to abstain.
Mayor's communication?
Nothing beyond what's on
The agenda? Okay. Public speak? Anyone here wants to speak about something not on the agenda? New business, since the Public Works Director's here, I'd like to take up things out of order a little. I guess we'll start with number 3 if everybody has an agenda. If not, it's the $34,300 design for gas ventilation at Oliver Street, because I think there's some type of a state mandate here that we need to fulfill or something, but I'll open it up to
Which one are we doing?
34.3, the design for gas ventilation. Just briefly, Joe, could you explain? I guess I know this has been ongoing. The gases move just to the north is like the high water. If I get it, the high water table on 3 sides contains it, but to the north, we've been putting in ventilation. I think we
That's correct. We have some monitoring wells on the north side of the landfill, on the other side of the brush dump now. We're required to sample that for DEC reg, and there's sometimes where the methane comes in higher than DEP would like to see. So they want us to intercept that methane and vent it off before it gets closer to the houses. We've got an order from them to give them a design and show them how we're going to remediate this thing. So what this will do is this money will get us started on that design.
I read in there, just one quick question. I read in there there's like 4 tasks, which I guess this is task 4, right? The pre-construction. And then there was also like options, like were there like alternative options, one's no action, right? Options or alternatives A, B, C, D, and E, and it appears we chose C. Is that the?
Yes. Yes. We chose C because we felt that was after talking to our engineers, we figured that was the most prudent way to go. And it's something we can phase in too. They wanted actually more wells than this, but we've got the number of wells reduced. And if it doesn't solve the problem, we can add wells and hopefully that will take care of it. But we're hoping that it's going to do what we need to do.
So will that figure of 175,000 estimate, is that after the 34 is for design, right?
Yes.
So that's not part of that 175. So that once we go to construction down the road, that's not something we're voting on tonight.
That's something we pay for.
Yeah.
Is that all? When they originally capped it, maybe the mayor goes, no, both. I don't know who.
We were both.
I know we got some of the. Yeah, I know we got some money for capping it, right? Or was it all our expense?
There were no funds that anyone else was paying. We did get some funding from the Big Dig project, and it's kind of a convoluted way that we got it, but it really wasn't something that was particularly geared toward the land. And so this has been a city, there's a city dump. It's our town dump. It's been our responsibility right along. And there wasn't ever any kind of a large trust set up for it. There was a landfill account that we were using some money out of for a while. Was left the funds that were left over from the capping expense. I think we were using, but I think we ran out of that probably 8 years ago. Right. Something like that.
Is it moving? Some of the events on private property. Do I remember that right from the past, or
some of the monitoring
was on private property?
But the vents will all be on city property.
Hey, Joe.
I was here.
The vents will all be on city property.
Yeah, Joe. You want to sit here?
So there's no, have we had any problems with, it's moving toward private property though, right? I mean, the gas is-
Well, it depends on what time of the year it is. If the
Yeah, it
ground
said something
frozen,
about when it's
the ground
pressure
frozen,
or
it
something.
can't come out and so forth, but some of the readings that they're getting, they don't like, so they want us to vent it before it gets that far.
Any other,
This is required by the DPW.
That's it's required by the DEP.
Do you have an understanding, or could you give me a visual of what the venting is?
It would,
Pipe sticking out of
Cane
the
Sticking out
pole?
of the ground.
Just
Cane pole?
just
Cane pipe?
yeah, you get a drilling machine in there and drill down certain depth,
a 6-inch pipe all the way down.
set the casing in there and with stone and,
How high off the ground does it come, like?
oh, they're
Just barely in hooks all
3
the way?
feet? 3 feet, yeah, with
Okay,
an elbow
I
on
know.
it.
Thanks.
So you picked the one that is the least costly. Does that mean that it's less costly? Why not, if we were to do the other ones, what would be the advantage? Is this going to make it solve the problem for a number of years, or are we looking at repeating this?
We're hoping this is going to solve the problem forever. If we pick one that, the more expensive ones,
Well, why would you? I mean, if you
why
didn't have to.
would we if we didn't have to? The other thing too is we might end up losing our brush dump. So we're hoping that, well, we feel confident that we're going to be okay.
and the alternative A with no action wasn't feasible?
That's not one of the alternatives the DEP likes to see.
The problem is, there's a gas leak.
Yeah, no, we know there's methane coming, migrating.
Chuck, Mr. you have a question?
I do. Was it last year the same issue? Was it when they were putting in I can remember there was something came up about venting and vents last year, and I thought...
Same thing.
Same thing. What happened was is they wanted more monitoring wells so that we could kind of pinpoint exactly what's happening to a better degree instead of just a monitoring well here and there. They wanted more monitoring wells so we could see exactly where that is coming from.
So what you recall, I think, was the order to do the study. And so we did the study, you got it in front of you, and now they're saying, okay, you got to follow through. And so we need to do design on the follow-through.
So this is the design and
And
then,
then the design's going to lead to bidding, and likely this time next year, I'm guessing, someone is going to be asking you for funding for the fix.
Councilor McCoy, I don't know if you,
Yeah, no.
any other
Any
questions?
chance this can be ignited?
No.
It's methane.
Not a,
Kid can't come over there and say, hey, what is this?
Oh, no.
I don't know.
the methane levels at the landfill are not such that you can capture it and concentrate it and burn it.
Good.
Northampton's methane levels are significantly higher than ours, and they have trouble doing that. They actually put in a generating facility that I don't think is operated as much as they had anticipated.
They had hoped to capture it and use it for energy.
But if you capture methane, you really do have to concentrate it in order to do anything with it. It's not methane coming out of this particular landfill, because it's so old, is likely on a decline, but it probably will never go away. Methane's generated by the decomposition of organic matter without oxygen, so it's an anaerobic process. And so obviously a capped landfill has no oxygen getting to it, but the organics eventually are all broken down, and then they'll stop giving off any methane. So it's a declining, sort of a declining process, very much like the TCE that's in our water supply. No more new stuff being added, and so over time it declines. Eventually, I would hope that we won't even have to worry too much about methane on this landfill, but as if I hope that we won't have to worry about TCE in the water supply at some point.
I'll move to approve it if we're done.
Any other-
Just one follow-up. Did you ask if any of these wells are going on private land or just on?
I think he said no.
As a landfill?
He said something on monitors were on,
Yeah.
but not the
And then I know
actual
already.
well.
Yeah. Okay,
Councilor Rish, you want to make a motion?
Yeah, move to approve.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
3-0. I'll set a public hearing for this next Wednesday, if you want to be there, Joe. Before we go on to another, and then maybe I can get some input from the other councilors. I know we have the insurance 34B public hearing. I mean, I don't want to...
32B.
Excuse me, 32B public hearing. I don't want to set too many public hearings.
That'll
Are there any
probably
others?
be a lengthy one.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know, well, you're not setting anything. You can't.
That's two.
Yeah, that hearing's
Oh, that's next week, so we're going to set it for the
If you set them, it'll be
You're
the
right.
first meeting in
You're
February,
correct.
which I think we should do with anything we pass tonight.
Right.
City review.
No, absolutely.
There is a possibility that 32B will be delayed, but only one meeting. I hope not. John can't come. State of the state addresses that night.
I'm going to it too. Not that you need me there.
Okay.
Moving on, why don't we do the one above it, number 2, $7,800 evaluation of emergency backup pump system at Nantucket Park. Well,
Yeah, we actually have two wells, two pump stations at Nautical Park. We have a backup generator in one of them we've had problems with. We know we need to do something with it, but we're wondering if it would be more beneficial to put the generator on the new pump that's down there, or put it on the old pump, or do we just put a right angle gear drive on there, or do we put a generator in there that can run the whole plant? We don't know those answers, so this is going to kind of give us those answers. So again, this is something that we're going to do a study, then eventually we'll be coming back and looking for some more money to fix that problem once and for all.
Who does the study?
I don't know the name of the engineering firm that we've been hired to do that.
But it's an outside.
It's an outside firm.
I think you had their proposal.
Yeah.
Tata and Howard?
Tate and Howard.
Tate.
That's it.
We do have it here?
It's a catch.
So you have 2 pumps.
Yeah.
One fails. Where's the, what happens then? No problem?
We need no.
There's two wells
wells
there.
there.
One is primary, the other is an old well that we replaced.
Right.
Okay.
Both are still equipped with pump systems. Only one of them has backup. That's the one that's giving you trouble.
Right.
Tate it, and
And so now it's like, do we go back in with a new generator, or do we go in with a direct? 2 of the other well sites have direct drive backup pumps.
Right.
So it's on a gas, on a petroleum engine, diesel engine, I presume. And so
Propane.
Propane. So that's an option, is to go to an engine, direct drive to the pump. And so one of the options would be to take, let's say, the older well, not the frontline well,
Right.
and put a direct drive pump on it.
Right.
And then when you need backup, because there's no power, you turn that one on. And you just run a propane engine until the power comes back on, then you turn the other one back on. The other is, like we do with the safety complex, a generator that's capable of providing all of the power necessary to run the electric pumps.
this is primarily because of power failures.
Right.
What area does this well feed?
I'm sorry?
What
It all,
area?
it all feeds
It
into
all-
a
it all-
grid.
All feeds in?
Right, it all goes together.
So there
The
are,
other wells that we use have emergency backup?
Yeah. We have
All of them.
Brook Street and also Hendrick Street.
so you have 3 primary points in town where water gets into the system. On Hendrick Street, you've got an 18-inch gravel-developed well called the Pines Well, and you've got 105 or whatever it is now, small wells that feed into a manifold and are
Yeah.
pumped.
Okay.
There's an emergency generator at that station. That's where we also treat for trichloroethylene. There's a Brook Street well at the end of Brook Street that has emergency
The generator.
that's a generator.
Yeah.
And then there's the Nantucket. And those 3 are what brings the water into the system, and all the system is interconnected. There are also 3 reservoirs that you're probably aware. There's one on Reservation Road, one at the end of Brook Street at the end of Hendrick, and one off of Loudville
Drury Lane.
on Drury Lane.
Drury Lane.
And one of those, the one on Reservation Road, is terrible.
Right. So the water goes into the system and it all mixes and goes into the tanks
Yep.
wherever it's needed.
I will say this, I'm actually all for this, but I'll make this comment. During the last couple of outages, one of the things that many people have come and said is, I lost power, but I didn't lose water.
Yeah, and the
So,
concern
was
is
this-
fire flow, just so you have a sense of it. It's not that one pump could supply the drinking water, one of these well sites could supply all the drinking water we would need during a power outage. But it's fire flows. You need to be able to feed the system with water.
Maintain
If you've got a fire somewhere, you got to be able to maintain both pressure and volume. And so that's why there's a concern that we have all of our sites capable of running in a power outage.
Did the backup for this particular well fail at the last power failure last year? Is that why you're looking at this? Okay. It's probably stated someplace in here, but I don't know.
I didn't see it here, maybe I could have missed it, but I know this is the study to find out exactly what your options are, or what, but do we have any estimate of what a final cost would
Rodent
be?
nest. Sorry.
At this point, no, we don't.
So we don't know.
This
This is the study to find out
This is what it's going
what
to
you need.
identify. It's very similar to the last one.
And I know there was something
But
about
it-
an angle and...
right angle gear drive versus a generator. So we don't know which is the best way to go, and that'll identify this same as that last one did with the landfill. They give you ABC.
Any other questions from the councilors, or the other two councilors here, Joe or Chester?
No. The only comment I have is for the, I can follow up later too, is once all is said and done, because we're using a lot of enterprise routine earning and free cash money, is to get a final balance. Once we extend on this, and we already have learned
Melissa was nice enough to give me that at the last meetings. And I think she took, assuming we
it. Yeah,
approved...
right down here.
I don't worry about the balances because I can't spend it if I could.
We'll use it all. Just so you know, there won't be any left by the time you're
Free
done
cash
with
retained.
what gets requested.
Because last year you were able to pull some over, but not this year. I was
Well, we have
encouraged
to hold
last
over
night.
some retained earnings.
I was
Well, retained earnings.
I think
not
nothing on there.
I'd like to make a motion, recommend approval of this $7,800 as presented tonight.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 3-0, and I'll set a public hearing for this one for our next council meeting also.
Okay.
I think we have one more that affects Public Works. We have to go down to interdepartmental transfer of $1,380 to fund a labor dispute resolution. I think I get what happened here. It sounds like there was a grievance filed by Unit A, and this seems to be a settlement that the two sides have come to rectify that. I guess the one question I had, it sounded like it was over whether it goes into their base. Does this 60, is this going to be ongoing? In other words, once we give them the
One-time
60, or just one time? One time and that's it. So this isn't a $60 that's going to recur every year.
Just so you know, what happened here, I love Massachusetts laws. The state said, by the way, this payment you're making can't qualify for retirement. And so we stopped taking retirement out of it as ordered by the state, and the union grieved it. Somehow they were hurt by the city.
We never
because
stopped paying
the
it.
state changed the law.
But we never stopped paying it, we just stopped putting it, we stopped taking retirement from it, and therefore it didn't qualify as part of
For part of their pension, if and when they ever retire.
And so this is just extracting a payment for no reason. I would love you to refuse it. Because it's bullshit. Nothing. Nothing would happen, and you would send a message, a very clear message, that some of these union tactics are a waste of time and energy for everybody.
You're obliged to put this forward
I am.
under a union agreement that you made with the union. You're asking us to deny that agreement.
No, I'm telling you what my personal preference is.
Well, I don't feel comfortable denying the agreement that you made.
Well, then you aren't exercising your authority as a legislator.
Yes, I am.
Well, just so you know.
Agree to what you agreed to.
I agree to it under duress.
Okay.
Mike, can you explain it again? I lost track of what.
Exercising.
it. You want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay. So,
I understand.
Retirement law changed. It used to be that clothing allowance was subject to retirement, and it changed.
Therefore, it was in their base.
Well, their contract put it as part of their hourly rate. They
Okay.
didn't receive,
Understand.
they didn't receive clothing allowance as a fixed amount or as a reimbursement. They received it as an hourly amount.
7 cents.
I think it was 6,
It's been a
actually.
little, yeah.
And they received it for every hour or whatever. So, but the retirement law changed, and when the retirement law changed, it could no longer be subject to retirement. And when their contract their contract ended, and we told them, your contract's over. It's mass, retirement law says is not subject to retirement. The only thing we did is we separated out their pay, whatever it was. So if it was $20.06 an hour, they got $20 an hour, and then they got an additional 6 cents an hour. But the 6 cents an hour, which still came on their paycheck, no longer was part of their retirement. It was like,
So they got paid for this.
absolutely, they absolutely got paid, but it no longer became part of their retirement annual earnings.
Okay.
So, so that changed, and that's what they grieved. Because it came as in two, we paid them 40 hours at their hourly rate, 40 hours at 6 cents.
Well, this is about 6 cents an hour.
So Michael, why couldn't you refuse this, or is this a
Because
mediation settlement?
it would have cost more for us to defend this
Oh, through legal fees.
through the legal fees than it is to present it to you. You still have the right to reject it.
Comes a copy of it.
And in their new contract, they no longer receive the 6 cents in their hourly wage. They receive it as a fixed dollar amount on accounts payable for reimbursement of actual purchase of
So
clothing.
we require them now to buy uniforms. We don't just pay them with uniform.
Okay.
And so if they already got paid that money, why are we, I mean, you never...
Well, there's a question for you.
Why do they want it? They're asking double dipping, aren't they?
Yes.
So, in other words, they got 6 cents every 40 hours to pay for the uniforms, and they grieved it, so now they're getting a uniform allowance on top of that.
Well, no, this contract, they're not giving them the 6 cents.
Yeah, this contract, we're not giving them the 6 cents, but they have, is it
$350.
$350, which is higher than it was, right?
3 1/4.
Yeah.
Reimbursement.
So I don't understand the
Reimbursement.
double dipping.
Because
If
the
it's out of the contract, then you have to pay extra
It was on
clothing.
the previous.
No,
This is a previous contract.
I
Oh, we're
understand.
paying from a previous contract.
That's what the $60.
So you get the 60 cents, and now they're getting the 6 cents, now they get the $60 on top of that. That's what you're saying.
Right, because we never stopped paying them. They kept
Right.
getting their 6 cents.
Right.
And somehow they grieved and said, but we want, I don't understand, that money anyway, that 6 cents.
Oh,
And so now,
that's interesting.
if I'm understanding.
How, was there ever any ruling by the Mass Division of Labor Relations?
No, he didn't.
They never got that.
We didn't let it go.
We
that
didn't let
far.
it go
They
that
That's
would
what you're saying
cost-
for the...
That's why the deal
You
was
have to hire a lawyer to
Crazy
defend it.
money.
That's why I did it.
All right, but let me ask you this. If we refused it, just for the sake of argument, if we refused it, do they have the right to appeal it? And then the city would have to go back to court anyway?
I'm not sure about
Don't
that.
think so. I can't give you a legal opinion because I'm not a lawyer. But
Well,
all
the reason you're
agreements, all union agreements are subject to ratification
By-
by the city council through appropriation.
I understand that, but what your premise is, it would cost more to deny this because of a legal fight. If we deny it, are we not just incurring a legal fight anyway? That's all I'm trying to find out.
No, you wouldn't, because they'd
You're
have
not
to come
sure,
back
is
to the table. They can't just go from your denial to some arbitrary board. You're not the employer. They have to come back to us and say, gee, that didn't work, what else can we do?
Okay. What do you think of this?
I'm actually thinking this way, since they've taken steps to correct this, in a sense, I'm in agreement with $1,380.
It's not worth the
It's not worth the, so it's worth paying it for the labor piece, that's the way I would turn it.
And I see the point that the mayor's making. Well, the double dipping bothers me, because they already got paid for it. And if it was $13,000, I think I would fight it. But on the other hand, labor piece, I just don't understand that.
And I think we have a contract. obliged to follow that contract. If you're already being paid for something, then I'm not going to pay you a second time to do the same job.
But they're using contract argument that says they were supposed to get,
Well, I don't know what they...
They're
what they
arguing,
grievance-
they're arguing that they were somehow harmed because we followed state law.
In my opinion, this is what gives labor a bad name.
Well,
You know,
Agreed.
I guess in fairness, though, I guess I would like to hear from the president. Is it Michael Sir? I mean, I'd like to get his take. I mean, there's two sides to every story.
Of course.
I would feel uncomfortable denying it till I heard his side of the story. I mean, so I certainly have no problem keeping this on the agenda for one more round and inviting.
I would agree, because
And
I'm
inviting,
torn with this one.
and then it'll give us time to kind of go back and see exactly what happened, and then also give the union an opportunity to come in and give their take on what transpired, and then I think we can make an informed decision whichever way it goes. Does that sound like a reasonable?
I am in favor of that. I'd like to hear from them, because I'd like to hear the level of, shall I say, upsetness that they have over this, because it sounds a little petty to me, but
So we'll keep this on the agenda.
$60 a piece.
We'll keep this on the agenda, and I'll invite the union president to our next.
Well, because if labor peace is your argument, are they really going to be that upset if we, this is a principle to me too. Joe's point is well taken. So I'm torn.
So I'll put it, and I'll invite as I said, I'll send an email to through Joe, get the word to the union president. We'd like, give him an opportunity at the next subcommittee meeting to present, and I'll explain where we're at, and he can explain.
What is this union?
That's the A, right?
That's Unit A.
DPWA.
Unit A of the DPW. Anything else, Councilor Cobb? I mean, are you good with that, or would you just rather?
No, that's okay. It's always good to get both sides of the story.
Can I ask one quick question? So Unit A, are there other units and they did protest this, or something?
Yeah, there's a Unit B.
Unit B, but that includes, that's just three guys, the supervisors.
Oh, okay.
Water, highway, and wastewater.
And I think they
They
understood.
didn't need a new tire or anything.
Right.
I think they understood what was happening. They are not a part of any labor organization any longer, so they both A and B have gone out on their own, so they're not affiliated with ASME or anyone. And they have an independent labor council, and they're being advised to do whatever they're being advised to do by their council.
So is A the rank and
A's the
file,
rank and file,
and B is the
and
supervisor?
B's the three
Supervisor.
departmental supervisors.
Okay, move that to the next.
Why do you want to be mayor? Honest to God.
Well, I'm only here for another less than a year.
Settles any thoughts I ever had of doing the job, I'll tell you that. Oh my God.
I think that's all the DPW items we have for.
Thanks, Joe.
I thank you. Have a great night, Tom.
You want to come down with me?
You mean your job? Same job.
You guys, have you dealt with the COLA?
No, we haven't done. In fact, we could deal with that. I did invite Chief Mater, and he said he would, but I told him we
I
were
can
taking
speak
up
to
some
his-
others. But
he's-
you know, we
we're
could.
gonna do the
He
COLA
said
is
he
a
was
model.
going to come, so he may still come.
You're
No,
talking about the
no,
150,000.
I'm talking about the fire
Why don't we do
department.
the COLA?
Have this.
Not to interrupt you, the COLA, just one second, the COLA, I think we could discuss the ordinance, I mean, we got to discuss the COLA first, because if we pass the COLA, then we have to kind of pass the pay plan ordinance, or at least recommend
I think we
payment
do the money before we do
through the ordinance.
So I have only three of these, but this is a recent
Right,
comparison, yeah.
I had asked,
one for each of them.
and I will compliment both the finance director and Risa, that I did ask late in the game for some comparisons of what other units have gotten for COLAs versus the pay plan people, so that we could have somewhat of a idea of where
Comparison.
people were getting. You want to explain this, or I could explain it. It's fairly straightforward. It goes back to fiscal year '09. The one hard part, and I still don't know if I have my hands totally around it, is pay plan goes January to January, and The union, I'll call them the union employees, go July to July, so I'm not sure who's ahead 6 months, or is there anybody ahead 6 months?
Well, I think you'll see that the pay plan folks were held back more often than the union folks.
Right.
So I'm guessing that if you want to put somebody ahead, I put the unions ahead.
I know they got slightly, or they got larger ones. The only one that the pay plan got higher was the, I believe it's 9 or 10.
That's reduced.
Where the reduced hours, but they got a
Not really
3%
a
COLA. No, but I think it was like about a 9% pay cut, or less money in their pay, but they gave them a 3% COLA. But then I guess this year we could figure in you got a 4.5% increase, because you're back halfway, right?
Sure.
I mean, if you want to do it.
That's
No, I said if you
not
want to
the
look
same
at
thing as the cost of living.
No, I'm just saying that was on one of the sheets here that we could take.
So they got 1.5% and this is 1.5%.
Right.
So it's fair.
Right.
Well, he's saying that in the year that the hours were actually cut, everyone else was getting 2.7.
275, and they paid the pay plan a little more because they were
Because they're
getting, their hours were cut.
Right. Well, I thought that was, at the time, I thought that
Right,
was.
so I was just making that,
But if you look at 9,
they still got more, the unions, I mean, I will
if you look
say
at
that.
9, the pay plan employees were really low than everybody.
Because they, on the, when they got just the 1% for the health, and the others got 275 plus 1 for the health.
When I'm reading this, the pay plan employees.
I don't
well
think that,
behind.
no, I don't think that they're ahead of the game. I wasn't in any of that.
So the 1.5 is what we have offered. All unions need. We're working with all the unions to go for 0, and we're trying to get that out of police at the moment. We're in arbitration with fire. We're in mediation with police. We've settled with a 0, 1.5 with DPW, and so the 1.5 is kind of keeps everybody at par. I think that the offer to the school unions is 1.5.
For a
One
year?
on
For
July
3-year
1.5, and on January 1. That's, I think, the last offer that went to them. And
Is
that's
that
probably
just
the
a
final
1-year
offer.
contract, or
Yeah.
you're only doing 1 year?
Well-
for all the bargaining units, or just?
The school committee voted to ask for 1 year because they really don't know how far they're going to fall off the cliff, and they don't want to commit beyond next year without knowing what's coming. And so they're concerned that that there are going to be issues they have to deal with, and that if they're overly generous with wage increases, or if they provide higher wage increases than they have to, that it's going to be more layoffs down the road. So they're trying to be as conservative as they can.
I know you're only the city side of the responsibility, but did the teachers get 0 the last couple of years? I mean, or
Teachers got
I know,
A0.
I just remember when
Teachers
during
got
the
A0.
override, or
They
1
took,
year.
they took a 0 the year of the debt exclusion question.
Right, I remember they had a 0.
And so they had the 0 that the pay plan employees took is the 0 that school took, is now the 0 that DPW took, and we're trying to get the police and fire to
take
do
a
the
0.
same.
Councilor Kyle, Councilor Risk?
Oh, I think it's well deserved. We're giving 1.5% in these fiscal years to the unions, we should give it to pay plan.
I guess I'd ask a general question, is the city going to be able to, assuming that everything's settled the way you're hoping, I mean, we're going to be able to...
Well, the annualized cost is twice what I'm asking, obviously, because this is a half a year.
Half, yeah.
And are we going to be able to absorb that? Yeah, we will. I mean, it's all in the grand scheme of things. We'll make an extra $380,000 or $400,000 in Prop 2.5. I will request that much more in taxes. We probably will have a little bit of new growth. I don't know that we're going to add any more hours back. I think we're done with that. But again, I've only got one more budget. So.
Right, here. Joe or Chester, you have a comment? You there?
Yes.
I'm all set.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I will also move to approve the ordinance amendment, which goes along with it.
Yeah, just one quick question on, I'll second it, and then I'll ask a question. This is all reflective of of the 1.5 regulars,
Yes.
I assume that that's just a formality of asking the question.
Yeah, so the grid, the whatever it is, the Exhibit B is the wage and hour grid.
Yep.
And so the detail you have in that financing request is based on the wage scale that's in the new Exhibit B.
Just one quick question, and I know the answer to it, but I'll ask it anyway. There's a couple of things, like there's one that shows a $1,400 increase. I assume there's more than one employee there, like the,
What's the...
it's the dispatch.
DPW administration.
Yeah, so
Oh, yes,
dispatch of five full-time employees.
Right, I assumed that. I just didn't know.
And so, yeah, so depending upon, like, certain lines, like the line in my department is one individual.
One, right.
You know, the lines in DPW are 2 in each line, because there's 2 people paid out of the supervisor line and 2 out of the rank and file line. Dispatch is all 5. I think the taxes, there's 3 different lines, an individual in each of those lines.
Well, I guess my one was the dispatch. It shows, 2 lines, but one says full permanent, but there's more than one employee, right?
There's 5.
5 employees. 5
employees.
permanent. So that's,
5 permanent
that's there.
employees.
That was my only question. So. Any further discussion on the ordinance amendment? Councilor Cobb? Councilor Rist? Other councilors present? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
I did move to approve.
Second.
That's right, we'd already done that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
So you want to deal with...
I believe these will also need a public hearing, so I'll put these both up for a public hearing. Hope nobody else wants public hearings next week.
Is ordinance doing this too? Are we?
No, ordinance, it went to finance instead of ordinance, because it was kind of related to
We always put them together, Joe, because they're related.
Yeah, I was wondering how in the past we said ordinance.
the other 2 supplemental appropriations we have are the $103,000 for the fire budget and $11,000 for the dispatch budget, and I guess the mayor is going to speak for the fire chief. He said he would try to get here, but I know he did have some training at Williston, so I don't know how long that.
Yeah, that was gas training. I mean, you've got...
I mean, he wrote pretty much what...
You've got the correspondence from the chief. I think it's fairly explanatory. I don't know, you want to start with the 11?
Why don't we start with the big one, 103, in case we run out of time.
You're aware of, I think, some of the injury issues we have. We've also had some administrative activities with a particular individual that we've had to put on a leave of absence. That is coming around now. We just got the investigative report back. You're actually going to see some requests for some additional monies and personnel driven by that investigation. We can talk more about that, although it's not public. If you want more details, talk to the personnel director. We'll go into executive session, but then we'll have to invite the employee, and so you can decide how you want to cover that. And so the chief has run his numbers and estimated what he's going to need for people to fill the minimum manning requirements. So all of this is driven by a minimum manning clause in the contract. That clause is that number 5 minimum staff has existed in the contract for quite a few years. It predates moving to the public safety complex, and it was originally intended to be 4 guys in the department and 1 guy to answer the phone. We don't no longer have firefighters answering phones, and so now the 5 men mean 5 people available to respond. And so we have to maintain that level of staffing, and when you have people out on long-term injury or folks that are out for whatever reason, you end up replacing them on overtime. I think the chief explained in some detail
a little bit of the 2 main individuals and I know under 111F you have to pay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the other piece is that because someone's out, they're getting full salary, and there's no workers' comp involved because 111F for public safety, police, and fire require us to pay that, and so they get their full wage if they're out on injury, tax exempt. and they get it for as long as they're out on injury, or until they're retired because of that injury.
Without,
How many of those firemen do we have like that too? Two positions that are injured with full payment?
Well, there might be only one now.
I thought it was one, because didn't one finally got it, it's pending before the retirement?
yeah, he said two, but one's
That
gonna,
one's still pending.
one
But
is,
we're still paying that salary until it's approved, right?
Yeah.
and one has been out many days on, sounds like.
Yeah, but that person...
That would, we think that
More of
that
a sick
person's going to be able
Come
to
back.
return to work.
Is, without going into current negotiations, is that minimum a collective bargaining issue?
It is a
so
collective
that's
bargaining issue. We have not had any success
In trying to.
in trying to get it out.
Do we run the 24-24?
No, we don't. That's a part of the issues we're dealing with in arbitration, our shift, and wages.
I just didn't know, I know that's how a lot are going, and I didn't know how that impacts, if it's more or less. It sounded to me like it might be.
We disagree on shift structure, and we'll wait for arbitrator to tell us how we can agree.
One of the questions he has here, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, go
He
ahead.
notes that he has, if he can fill an anticipated vacancy by January, does he have that opportunity?
There's no list. So the
Still no
list.
list.
See, again, that's a civil service department. We have been unsuccessful in getting the
Yeah, you
department out of the
mentioned
civil
that.
service as well. And so hiring is driven by a statewide list of people who you can hire. And until that comes out, we can't even entertain any of those folks. And so we haven't seen it. I just signed and we submitted the most recent seniority list to civil service, and so we're up to date as far as our side of the equation, but they still have not let us know who we can hire, what list we can hire from. And so, given that it's already January, I don't think the odds of hiring somebody until the end of February. I mean, I would be surprised if we can get somebody in the door by the end of February. Assuming that sometime this month that list comes out.
So if the person is retired, that's off now, we won't have to pay that salary anymore, but we won't have anybody to replace them because the list isn't up.
Well, that person likely, I mean, I don't know how fast the retirement system is going to work. If the list comes out sometime this month, we'll know the group of people that we have to talk to. And I suspect that the chief will talk to the entire group and come up with, again, you have to hire them in the order that they appear on the list unless you have some reason that civil service recognizes for jumping over someone. And so it's getting the list sets up a process. And that once that process is completed, if you need two, you take two. If you need one, you take one. If you need three, you take three. And so it's slow now, and once the list is in place and people are available, it speeds up considerably.
We're also not the only community that's reviewing that list.
Right.
But the retirement has to happen before we can hire. That has to be finalized.
Yes.
Didn't you have Coleman still?
No.
We did.
We
but
do.
but we didn't.
Right. We have a civil service version of that authorized. No one right now. There is no one serving in that position, and no list that we can draw people from. So again, hopefully they're called reserve intermittents in the civil service language, and reason we went that way is because we got union grievances for Coleman. But since they're a civil service organization, they can't grieve part-time civil service positions, which is the reserve intermittent. So the Chief Motter introduced that, and it was successful. But again, without a list, there's nobody to choose from.
It's like I remember years ago, if you wanted a job in the fire department, you kind of started as a Coleman and worked your way in, and when something opened up,
The attitude amongst the rank and file about that process has changed significantly over the years. So the members of the department, although many of them came into the department that way, the department the rank and file position has changed, that they don't no longer see that as being a valuable way to get staff. And so, which is why we're using the reserve intermittent. But that means that whoever wants to get hired has to go through the civil service process, whereas many of our call people were just hired and then introduced to the civil service process. But that's not the way that it works now.
And I assume it's like the police, they have the reserve intermittent, and you have to go to a certain amount of training.
Yes,
It's a very formal training. And I don't know how much how many classes they're even running these days for fire.
The advantage to reserve intermittent is you don't have to look at any of the list.
Right.
So
You can, once
we
you
have a position open. If we have an employed reserve, we can simply hire that person. We don't have to go seek anything else. So it's a big advantage to having it.
Yeah.
Disadvantage when there's nobody on the list to be able to hire, or they're employed elsewhere. You know, I mean, I think that's happened to the people that we've had on, is that either we've employed them or they found employment elsewhere because they need to make a living.
I will say, in following things, this does not come as unexpected to me.
Oh, I know.
She's come very upfront and open with the issues facing this department.
We have a similar hole in police that will come to you next week.
I was just going to ask that was because I know the police.
Driven in a different way, but about the same size.
I know we've dealt with the police the last couple of years, and I thought they were making. Is it hopefully a little bit less? Or, I guess we'll wait till we see.
Yeah, when you replace people and they leave for whatever purposes, they are entitled to certain payments of earned time that they get as they leave.
Vacation time, sick leave.
Yeah, vacation, if they have comp time built up. And so sometimes, and I don't want to get off the subject, but in the police department, a big part of it is that we don't have these people any longer because they are being retired, but
There's still a
as they
financial
retire, we have payments that weren't planned for in the budget that we have to pay, and then we have to supplement that. So you'll see some of that. It's again driven by personnel shortages and injuries, but in the case of the police department, we bolstered their overtime account, and so they don't need it in overtime. They're going to need it in other places.
Any other questions from councilors on the committee or the other two councilors? Or do you feel we have enough information?
Oh, yes, we have to do it. I move to approve.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Guess we'll set a public hearing for this one also on the next meeting, which I believe is, I'll set it at the meeting of the 16th for the first meeting in February, like all the others.
Would you like Chief Moore to provide?
Yes, I will, as I said, he said he would try to get here tonight, but I will definitely give him a little...
The 11,000 is the same thing for dispatch, right?
The 11, yes, it's a very similar request. I guess the mayor could speak to this also. It sounds like they used to have on-call,
No on-call dispatch.
but they need an EMD, whatever that is, training.
Emergency medical dispatch.
So they have to be able to, on the phone, they have to be able to give.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things changing.
Good idea.
And right now, there's a new requirement that if you have a medical emergency, that a trained dispatcher has to stay on the line with the party until the ambulance arrives, which creates its own set of issues that we're trying to deal with, because if you have a single dispatcher on duty and that dispatcher has to stay on the phone with someone because there's an ambulance responding, then that dispatcher is not available to answer the phone for the next call that comes in. So there's some issues that we're trying to get our hands around at this point, and there are a couple of, that we're looking at regionalization with Northampton, which is one option, and there are other options, and we'll see. We have to wait for the regionalization study to be done to see if that makes financial sense or not. In this instance, we've also changed management in dispatch, and so the previous dispatch supervisor no longer works in dispatch. He's moved to a different job in the city. So there's a new boss, and her focus is clearer. on the need to bring people in and get them trained. And I don't think that we're going to run into the same problem about delays in training and getting people up to speed as we have recently.
That's Lauren.
Lauren Milton, she was an employee of ours and left for a different job and came back when the supervisor's job opened up.
Talk to me a little bit about the state grants that we might be able to get. Is it
Well, there are
equal to this? Or?
the public safety answering point system, the PSAP system, collects 75 cents on your telephone bill from everybody who subscribes, and they have a pool of money. And so they provide some funding for training and to offset the overtime costs of training. We have not successfully gotten all of the funding that was available in the past. And again, I think under the new supervisor, we'll do a better job of collecting that. That money really is geared towards trying to supplement what the city provides to bring these dispatchers up to speed, and it's up to $30,000 a year or thereabouts. I think we've not been successful in capturing all of that money every year, and so I think Lauren will do a better job of that as well.
I look at this as and it's clear from the letter. In my mind, a deficiency has been identified, and this is the cost to actually correct it, and also is giving the supervisor an opportunity to do what we hired her to do. And so I'm all, basically all in favor of actually supporting this and seeing how she does.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, we have to be able to run dispatch, and I can't run a negative, and so you do need to fund it.
Deficit.
You mean we don't have to run the
Or
fire
we declare an emergency. You were asking about declaring emergencies, and I guess
I want to know about the snowbird season.
you're getting it.
This next.
Yeah, because this year we got some snow.
Well, the last time when we didn't, we still had it.
It's at your next meeting.
We didn't have any of those signed.
Okay, I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the $11,000 request.
Second.
Okay, motion.
Any further discussion?
I have none.
Any of the other counselors? I know you have to reopen the thing, but you look like you're all, they suspend the rules.
No, I
so you
just
have-
have one question. How much does it cost to train dispatcher? I mean, how,
Well, I think it depends on the dispatcher. There's two sets of training, and so the training that the chief's referring to, or the chief's referring to here, is the emergency medical dispatch training. I don't know specifically, so I guess I can't answer that question. They essentially, there are no particular schools for training, and so we do the training in-house, or the training is done in other dispatch groups and we join them. But there's no, like, there's a police academy and there's a fire academy, there's not a dispatch academy, so there's no, I can't tell you that's $2,500 to send a person to this school because they don't have one of those.
As Councilor Cobb suggested, I will invite the chief that night. That's a question you can certainly ask.
Question, these on-call dispatchers, are these people who are hired to be only on call, and are they employees, or are they consultants? I mean,
They're part-time employees.
part-time employees.
They're in the pay scale as people within the pay plan grade, and they're paid by the hour for the time that they.
And they're scheduled strictly as needed, or do they have a set?
When we've had them, they've been both. You can schedule them when you know you have vacancies. I mean, the 5 people that we have overlap fairly well, and so the 5 full-timers, as long as they're all working, pretty much fill it. We'll schedule part-timers if it's something busy coming up, like potentially the fireworks or some other event in town, Halloween. And they'll schedule the part-timers to fill in for known vacations, known holidays, that sort of thing. And then sometimes they'll be able to bring them in if someone calls in sick, but it's pretty short notice for part-time employees, and many times those employees have other jobs because they need to get more money than we're able to pay.
Okay, getting back to our original motion, is there anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
We'll set a public hearing for that one also.
That's everything.
I think that's everything on the agenda except the
General discussion.
city council budget, which I guess we'll have to
You're right,
submit
Brian.
formally. I guess we'll submit formally to Melissa and the mayor at a later date. I think I'd like to go over the numbers quickly, at least with the committee because Justin wasn't here.
We were going to approve it based on
Yeah, I think-
Barb's recommendation.
Right.
Were we going to need to ask for
I
an
did see
increase?
the emails. and
Right.
I did follow the meeting.
What Barb requested, last year we had, just to bring you up, Justin, in case you weren't here, last year we were budgeted $1,500 for advertising, and Barbara says it keeps getting more expensive every year from the Gazette, so she asked for an extra $100 to $1,600. Then, this is a year of an election ceremony, and I guess between the school committee, the city council, and the mayor's office, they provide refreshments at that swearing in, so
Yeah, those notes.
so she requested that we add $75, I believe, for that one. And then the other one that she wanted to raise a little, she said we were fine in education, we didn't have anything, we're not going to put anything. Postage she doesn't need, she still got postage. The other thing she said that when they switch counselors and there's no, this is the one item we really didn't settle on, is she said she needs about $85 for each counselor position that might change. That's for, generally, the council provides them with some type of a plaque, the outgoing counselor with some type of a plaque and certificate, and the nameplate for the incoming counselor.
She doesn't have it here?
No, these are the figures she had, so she said it's up to us. She provided, if it's one, it's 85, down to 5 if they think there's 5. I mean, I think we should maybe realistically put a switch of 2. We could always go back to the mayor for a supplementary appropriation. Although you won't be here.
I think we should just do it.
Yeah, but I don't think we need 5, Dan. I don't think we got to go to.
How much?
If you thought there were 5 counselors, I got them on the side there. What's it like, 400, 500?
5 is $425.
Right. I was saying go 200. That's 2 plus. She said it 25 to 50 for some cover. So I figured if we go 200 there as opposed to the 75 in general supplies. And I don't care. She left in the in-state travel. We haven't used it in 3 years. $100. I'm
So we
certainly.
can move that over if we...
I mean, I'd be willing to knock that down to. It's up to you guys. If you want to knock that down to $50 or leave it.
Manage the budget if we need that. We just need to reduce that other amount. Suggested.
Reduce
to 200.
Flags.
You mean increase the total?
Increase it.
We didn't have anything.
We had 75 last year,
Okay.
because that's for the things, I think, Barbara, remember we gave a few certificates to people,
Yeah.
like the high school group that went down to Washington, we presented them all with certificates and covers and that, so. The mayor may deny us anyway when we get to the.
Big money.
It's a lot of money. I don't know how to get handle it.
Well, it's only a couple
Raise
$100
taxes.
increase over fiscal 13.
Right, I think
You got clothing allowance.
if you put 50 more in,
Yeah, I want
then maybe
6
take 50 out.
Put 6 cents in the
I
budget.
think we're,
We're on the air
I
here.
just keep
okay, we'll put it back to 100.
What, the 100 for the...
For the in-state travel, nobody uses it,
But if we leave it there, we can always, if we need money, we can always do it.
Okay,
Gives the mayor something to cut.
right, yeah, absolutely.
All right, we should have said it.
That's right. Shouldn't have discussed that here.
So, do we need to move to approve this?
Yeah, what I'd like to do is, and again, I'll ask you guys for guidance a
To
little.
recommend the full city council approval of this.
Okay, it's not currently been on the agenda. Do I, President Cobb, do I have to, I mean, I will talk to Barbara.
Was it,
Barbara just gave it to us to look over the figures, so I don't know if you want me at the next, I can talk to the city clerk.
Certainly, the council does approve this, and we just give it to the city.
I know, but what he's saying is, it wasn't sent to committee. The committee just initiated it. But I think that's fine.
I mean, I'll just have Barbara put it on the agenda.
Just put it on the agenda for the February meeting to be approved. We approve it in committee report, you don't put a public hearing.
Right. No, we want
Or we
to...
recommend it to the full council, then...
Okay, we'll put that on the February, and then I can get it, because I know the finance director wants everything in by February 21st, but I'd like to get it in by the 3rd or 4th.
She's a pain, isn't she? So, recommend to full council, Cobb, second me.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're done. Move to adjourn, 7 o'clock, very good.
We have a member of the public just arrived. Do you have any
He's not
comments?
public, he's a lawyer.
Do you have any comments you want to speak? It's being taped here. We're supposed to tell everybody that comes in that you're being taped, so if you want to...
No comment.
No comment.
Move to adjourn,
Any objections to adjourning?
7 p.m.
Non-debatable.
Okay. Got the minutes done.